with John Philip Sousa, because of course today is his birthday. John Philip Sousa was born on this date in 1854 in Washington, D.C. And I drove up today from D.C. I got to spend the morning, early morning, at the birthplace of John Philip Sousa on G Street in Southeast Washington, which is like 2 blocks away from the Marine Barracks. And then went over to the ceremony, the annual ceremony at Congressional Cemetery, where Sousa is buried. They have speakers in the morning, and then the United States Marine Band comes in and plays some music, and they lay a wreath. It's always a fitting tribute to the March King. And you know, we say March King, but you know, if John Philip Sousa had his way, he would have never written marches. Sousa wanted to write operettas. He was a violinist, a very accomplished violinist, and as a young man worked in the theaters in Washington and then up in Philadelphia, where he was not only playing violin in pit orchestras, but conducting Gilbert and Sullivan. Loved Gilbert and Sullivan so much that he said, gee, I'm going to write some operettas too. Well, how many people can name a single operetta by Sousa? There were a couple, but you know, he found out that his niche was probably better writing songs, writing marches. And of course, as a boy, he had been apprenticed to the United States Marine Band as a boy musician. The story, of course, being that when Daddy found out that he was about to run away to join the circus band, he took him down to the Marine Barracks and had him enlisted at the age of 13.
Oh, goodness.
And he served up until he was 21, and that's where he got a lot of his musical training. Then he was called back to the Marine Band in 1880 to become the 17th director of the United States Marine Band, a position for which he served for 12 years. Then in 1892, he left the Corps and formed his own band. And this band traveled the world. He continued writing marches. In fact, he wrote 136 of them. He toured the country. It's hard to think about John Philip Sousa in today's world, but he was a superstar. He drew tens of thousands of people to his concerts all the time. Concerts were sold out everywhere. He did a few world tours. And then when World War I broke out, he felt it was his patriotic duty to serve his country. So what did he do? He petitioned the United States Navy, and they gave him a commission in the United States Naval Reserve as a lieutenant. And he went up to Great Lakes in 1917 and 1918 and was the director of the band program. So he had 300 naval musicians, about a third of his age by that time, because he was 62. But he kept up with them, and he trained all these young musicians to go out and do their duty for the Navy. And by the way, he did get paid for that too. He got paid the big amount of $1 a month from the United States government. He even joked about it. He says, oh, how the money rolls in. He, of course, then continued with his band up until his death in 1932. The other things about Sousa, I mean, when you think about the things that he did, not only composing music, he was a writer. He wrote books, he wrote plays, he wrote numerous articles. He was an athlete, loved baseball. He even had his own baseball team. He was an avid horseman. At times, 2 times in his life, he rode horseback from West Virginia to Washington, D.C. One in his 60s at that time. Also an avid trap shooter, and also a lifelong member of, he was a Mason. In fact, some of his pieces were dedicated to Masons. But the one piece of music that we are, of course, everybody knows that is associated with John Philip Sousa is the Stars and Stripes Forever. And of course, we think July 4th, Independence Day. But when you know the history of the song, or the march, it was actually composed on Christmas Day. Sousa had been vacationing in the fall of 1896 in Europe when he got the word that his manager, David Blakely, had passed away suddenly. So Sousa and his wife booked immediate passage back to the United States. So you can imagine on that shipboard, Sousa feeling sadness for the loss of his friend and his manager, but also the sense that he was returning home. And as he paced the deck of that ship, he could see the American flag flying above him. And he developed a musical earworm. You know, he had this tune that just kept going over and over and over in his head. There are many legends about how he composed it, that he composed it while he was on shipboard, that he composed it as soon as he got back. The truth is that he kept the tune in his head, and then around Christmas time, he finally sat down and put pen to paper and finished it, and it's signed on Christmas Day, 1896. Then in the spring of 1897, he scored it out for full band, and it was first performed at the Academy of Arts in Philadelphia. And it, of course, has become our national piece. In the 1980s, it was designated our national march. So I can't think of a better way to celebrate John Philip Sousa's 164th birthday than performing the Stars and Stripes Forever. And the arrangement you're going to hear tonight is based on the original arrangement that Sousa did, and this is how the United States Marine Band performs it. We were able to get that arrangement from the band. They were kind enough to let us have it, and what a great band to do this, and what a great way to celebrate, and what a great way to end the concert. The Stars and Stripes Forever by John Philip Sousa.
Thank you.